treaty for peace. Only I have, not the other members, only I say, Jayampathy Wickramaratne wanted paragraph 3 and 4 added. That is that monist type clause. So far, it's only me. So,
Hope for the best. What's the reason why
they are, some people, they are scared of this treaty. So, they forget that we enter into treaties in the exercise of our sovereignty. Nobody can force us to make treaties. For example, for good or bad, ICC has not been ratified. So you can't force, right? But there are people who think that the moment you ratify, you come under international pressure and influence and all that. But my own view, having worked on the international law area, I've been working with the UNDP and the UNODC for so long. I mean, to be members of the world community, to be good members of the world community, you need to accept this.
We can't be living in isolation.
Yeah, you can. Okay. Take some.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jayampathy. Before we start the meeting, second stage of the meeting, once again, those who haven't contributed, please do so. We need your contribution to basically have more and more meetings, and we can't run on deficits. Your help will be very much appreciated. Now, we have two names. I have added Kuhadasan as well because I missed him out in the first round. So, Kuhadasan, Chelian, and Charles, the three names given to me. Shall we start with Kuhadasan?
Yeah.
What I want to speak about the discussions were going on. See, the moment they also accepted. Breakappada Muriyala, Original and the term is quite good, and that is official.
What's that? Oromitara.
Indivisible Oromitara.
Indivisible Original.
Oromitara is indivisible.
Indivisible means undivided one country.
Yeah.
The Original, present form is quite correct.
Oromitara.
Because they are mentioned indivisible also. That indivisible also is there. So there is no point of if you include actually joint. That will be a problem.
No, ATA is not united.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
ATA is oneness.
Yeah, some people are thinking about the unity and this thing. If you speak about the unity, then you accept thing that there are two states. So that will be omitted. The present form is quite good. And it is my humble opinion.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chelian.
Dr. Jayampathy, just before lunch, you touched upon the enriched clause.
Yeah?
The enriched clauses, indefinite clauses. The point I try to make and the question that I want to ask is that the purpose of having an enriched clause is to put the particular clause beyond reach of the executive and the legislature. Where you say that there is going to be a referendum, the referendum has to be divided into two categories. One is national referendum and one is the local referendum. For example, if there is a devolution of power and then that particular power is going to be taken away and there is going to be a referendum, and if that is going to be a national referendum, we as a minority would never win with that referendum. So on that respect, when it comes to enriched clauses, the referendum which you mentioned before lunch has to be looked at carefully, whether it's going to be a national referendum or whether it's going to be a local referendum. That's one of the point I try to make. The other thing is that earlier on you said about national policies. The national policies, when they going to get drafted after this constitution coming into effect, that should not be in conflict with the constitution. Whatever it may be coming in the future, that should not be a conflict of that. And the other point I'm trying to make is just an example of the Kenyan Kenyan constitution.
Kenya?
Kenyan constitution, when they have had their constitution for about 10 years, number of things in their constitution never got implemented. eventually it went back to the parliament. They had to appoint a committee for Constitution Implementation Committee, CIC.
What's the
Kenya.
Kenya.
To look at
I have the content.
look at the Constitution and to reform.
What is the article, please?
The CIC, I don't know the article number, I think it's in there. If you want to.
Yeah, have it here. Kenya.
CIC, if you put the
Kenya 2010 Constitution.
Yeah, Kenya.
It's called the
The Constitutional Implementation Committee was formed after 5 years, after that.
Okay.
Yeah. That is because, I know this is, we can say, quick answer is we cross the bridge when we get there, but at least we say that whatever we're going to time today. So that was the point, the other point I would like to make. And then, on the devolution of power, Dr. Jayampathy, there should not be any wording of ambiguity or vague, which is going to be open to the interpretation and the future. There will be challenges for that, thing. So those are the points.
Thank you. Shall I invite Charles to put his point across?
Yeah. My concern is the UK Tamils or the mainstream of the diaspora has not been convinced of the developments that is taking place, and if there is any way that we can bring them in by meeting their political demands, political aspirations, I think this would become more meaningful. Those people who stood there in front of Westminster Parliament and who campaigned during this time, they are still finding difficulty to see whether the aspirations of the Tamils are met in any way through this constitutional process. Number one, they think that transitional justice is such a thing that one thing is about truth finding, about what has happened and how we should bring about the institutional changes that really reflects the problem that we had faced. Prime Minister is coming to Jaffna and he makes an open blanket statement to say that all the people who are missing are dead, and they can get away with such a statement without any protest from any part of Sri Lanka, whether it is the state or judiciary or the people or the legislature. No one is making any protest about it or trying to find a solution to these people. So I'm finding without the truth finding, when we try to bring in the constitutional change, at least we may have to take into account of people on the ground who are protesting about the missing people, the occupation of their land and the loss of their... I think the constitutional movement also must have senses has taken place and how to tackle this issue, at least to address this issue. And when we had this protest in Catalonia, one thing that I found was there was no military intervention at any time during that
Coming into the
referendum.
constitutional aspect or going further than that?
No. And the question that no military, it will be not a military responsibility. After 1978, it was the responsibility of the legislature to keep the unity of the unity state of the government. And whether can we bring such?
You can explain what.
Okay, here even after the war, the military seems to be playing a greater role about occupation of the Tamil land, and there was no reason for them to occupy the private lands of the people and so on. And it is continuing. And secondly, without the war, still there is a the state of affairs has not changed. So to the civilian government to take control of it, whether they can bring about a change that the Spanish government has done in 1978 to keep the military out of any equation about the law and order.
Thank you, Devan. One more question he has raised. With that, we are
Dr.
finishing.
Bala.
Dr. Bala, I asked you, I'll come back to you. Devan, you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Jayampathy. Even after the war ended last 7-8 years ago, the ethnic issue is very sharp in Sri Lanka. And in that context, there is not the government or the opposition parties, the minority parties, not went to the people to explain what is actually happening regarding of the constitution. But my point is the groundwork is not done. As you said, the people hold the sovereignty. End of the day, people going to vote. Without any groundwork, whatever the constitutional proposal you are proposing or the parliament is proposing, I don't think there is any point it will gain the momentum with the people. The next one is, as Charles raised about Catalonia, even in the Western democracy, when there's a constitutional crisis, the Western democracy actually sent the military police to handle the democratical process. I'm not saying that it's not hard to be the referendum, I mean independent referendum. It's any constitutional crisis, there is a possibility that the government, any government can send take a military action.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, as I raised earlier, the Tamil parties or other parties, they haven't meet the people to explain. Whatever the proposal we are putting forward is going to end in whether it is North and East going to be merged or not. Nothing else. In that single issue, even the Tamil political party in here, represented by Sam is representing, they say if the North and East is not merged, they are not going to support. So that the Tamil polity come to a point, the North and East merger is for their lifetime. So what will happen to this? Are they going to clearly define this?
Thank you, Devan.
That's all my question.
Thank you, Devan. Bala, I'm sorry. Sorry, 1 minute. Bala, I'm sorry. It is my mistake. You put the name in the wrong side. I missed you. Bala, if you could briefly ask the question, if you don't mind.
The last question.
Last one, yeah? Because he has to go at 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Jayampathy of India. Sir, just want to mention a few points. I read this proposal and everything. I'm a little bit satisfied with the way it is addressing the issues on few fronts. First of all, we are talking for many years, 30, 40 years, we are talking about this unitary and federal concepts, which are very kind of two terms, which everything is boiling down to the end of the day between the communities, aspirations, and constitutional negotiation or constitutional arrangement. And here we are putting forward to solve that issue as one few lines saying this will be a key idea or with an art. That itself is a deceptive term in terms of the public. Last week I went to Sri Lanka, spoke to people, and they all feel they are trying to cheat us again. That is the perception they got, because they simply understand it in another way. Federal party, all people know federal party, and in Tamil it's a Tamil Arasi Council. They cheated it that way, and here is the same thing. Even the DNA is cooperating to cheat people in that sense. So I would say, I don't know whether that in itself is right or that Ekia and Oromita is good enough, but that is much wider explanation to convince the people that you are addressing their concerns. And in that sense, their concern is your majority concern is military, minority concern is federal. Okay. But those issues, I always have a feeling, those issues are not contradictory. They are complementary in their aspirations. The Sinhalese people don't want to divide the country. Tamil people don't want to take the powers back from them. So it can be a dual nature which Unitarian Federal Constitution is possible in their aspirations. So that should be addressed. In that sense, we are considering those two perceptions, and dual nature of constitution is what we are producing in these terms.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Because he has to respond within 15 minutes, if you don't mind.
The devolution. The second thing, some people ask me about maximum devolution of powers or genuine devolution of powers. Everybody's talking about. You are talking not in that regard, but people's experience is on the other way around. Even now they say, although you can say a lot of things in this sense, but on the other hand, one thing we all know about the government control of the issue at the moment, and we are saying that they have to take it away. But on the other hand, now there are departments like a UDA, Global Development Council, Mining Department, Forestry Department, Archaeological Department. All these have made the same in controlling the land and development of the country. And even they say, well, there's no point even they can buy a house, they can form the municipal council, but it's just about the urban development council get approved. That's the kind of perception people get. Okay, I'm not talking about myself. This is what people. So all they talk about devolution in other practical sense, this has been all taken away already, and in another way it can be taken out as well. I'll give another other sense. Also, in papers and practice is different. Is for an example, in Sri Lanka in contest is big thing. For example, I went to a Sri Lankan Community Society of Farmers last week, and they said they had about the cataract surgery issue, and now the people can't buy the lenses. Rajesh said we will provide the lenses for all the surgery. So the surgeon said they are hospital, they need 100,000 lenses, but they have provided only 18,000 lenses for the country for the year. So now hospitals they are saying, we are not doing any surgery now. So the patient can't bring the lens, and so they have who can afford that to go to the private hospitals. Others are just like that. So this is the practical. So we can talk in paper and practice it with different as well. These things will be there. And one more thing about the caste discrimination. Also, the constitution should involve something in it to address that issue. That's a major issue among the committee as well. Thank you.
Now, on this issue of national policy, yes, national policy cannot violate the constitution, and that is why we are also we are insisting that national policy not be declared by cabinet decisions, and if they are declared by cabinet decisions or circulars, that's not binding on the provincial council. To bind them, we are insisting that they should be in the nature of framework legislation, so that once the bill comes to Parliament, we are hoping, of course, to have post-enactment judicial review, that it will be subject to judicial scrutiny. I completely agree that you cannot have national policy contrary to the constitution. On the Kenyan issue, yeah, I found that in the Kenyan constitution, that's the commission, section 5 of the Kenyan constitution, a commission for the implementation of the constitution. That's only 5 years. That's only 5 years. But why not? That's a good idea. So that there's a commission which looks, because it's going to be major constitutional change, and somebody overlooks, maybe not 5 years, but 10 years, over a period of 10 years. See that the constitution is, the new constitution. Now, one complaint is that still, Asoka Gunawardena, a former finance committee chairman, in his report said that although there has been devolution, the central government, the centre is still organized in the same way, and you need restructuring. So all that can be gone into by a commission, and I think that's a very good idea. I'll take note of it. I'll try to push this. That's very good. On Catalonia, what do I say? What you suggest is that we put in a clause in the constitution that the army has no role. Actually, army has no role. It's only the police. Army has a very specific carved out role in the constitution.
Can we adapt what Catalonian had.
What does it say? Spanish
It says that if there is any dispute between the center and the periphery, the state forces cannot intervene to suppress any.
You can't remember the number, no? I have it here. Anyway, no, what we are proposing is that any dispute be referred to a constitutional court. We are strongly supportive of a constitutional court, so that any dispute goes to the constitutional court. But not everybody is supportive. For example, SLAP says you can have a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court. I mean, the 20th Amendment determination is one of the poorest determinations we have seen, not reasoned out. There is a judge who has dissented, we don't even know his name. So a minister told me, look, I have been not very pro-constitutional court, but after this judgment, I think we should have a constitutional court. So what we are saying, we are thinking it's a constitutional court, specialized constitutional court, say 5 judges or 7 judges, nominated on the recommendation, appointed on the recommendation of the Constitutional Council. Hold office for 5 years. All judges to sit, or at least 5 judges sit. After 5 years, they go home. No reappointment. So that senior lawyers can be, and senior academics can be invited to serve on the Constitutional Court. So that any dispute will be handled by the Constitutional Court. But we thought. Most people don't understand this concept of constitutional court, even lawyers. On this, not only Tamil parties, I think the government also, one big problem we have is that there is still no agreement between the 2 main parties. So that is one barrier in having a nationwide campaign. Now, quite like during the Chandrika days, it was clear what we were going to do was clear. I was a member of the drafting committee. We never met her even. We used to get limited instructions from GLP, this was Minister of Constitutional Affairs. But the drafting team consisted of Sarat Silva, who was Attorney General, just the same Sarat Silva, legal draftsman, and myself. And we hardly took instructions. We have no need, because the position of the government was clear. So we went on drafting. And when finally, when drafts were given, they had no problem. We said, why? The position of the government being clear. It was clear to the drafting committee what the limits are. So here in this present situation, there is still no agreement. So I hope that the 2 main parties and of course the TNA, at least the 3 parties come to an understanding, so that then there can be a campaign. You have to also have passion. How many ministers in the government, government side talk about constitutional reform? Few, not many. Again, one reason is that there is no finality between the 2 parties. So that restrains ministers from coming out, and because I am not a minister, or even a deputy minister, I have the freedom. I am a backbencher, literally and physically, because I actually sit in the last bench. Right? So I have the freedom. So what we need is a campaign where the senior politicians or political leaders also come and get into the campaign, like it was done during the Chandrika days. Of course, Chandrika days, I must always say, that campaign was good, but the process got delayed and close to a general election. So we can't do that again. Unitary removal is not for the removal of unitary, the phrase is for a very good reason. As I said, even I am opposed to the word, using the word unitary in the English. We can't have it because of this unitary mindset problem. It's not only So the Ekiya meaning indivisible and undivided and indivisible, we have no problem. That's in the report. And unitary is defined. Ekiya is defined to be indivisible and undivided, and then that sovereignty is not divided, and therefore constitutional change is a matter for the central parliament. So we need to find a good. I think everybody is saying in the Sinhala community, yes, retention of the word unitary, meaning indivisible and undivided, is welcome, except by the extremists who say no. That's not enough. That's not enough. People who are against any devolution. Did I say this? I don't know whether I said this. About 5 years back, or 10 years back, 12 years back, there was this seminar organized by the Ministry of Constitutional Affairs. A colleague of ours who is very much in the news opposing the current process was there. He said, what problems do the Tamils have? We go in the same bus, we share the same teapot. So simple for him. So when it came to my turn, I said, that is the problem. You are prepared to share the teapot, but you are not prepared to share state power. There was no response. So this is the mindset of people who...
Similarly, Dr. you also have the mindset of the Tamil party as well, who say will not accept any acts of federalism. It can be.
There will be extremists. There will be say, unless you have the word federal with a capital F, and now the other example, somebody said, some party saying, unless there is Northeast merge up front, we don't support. If you put that condition there, I can tell you, there won't be a constitution. How to face the reality? Face the reality and go ahead. So, yes, we need to explain these terms, and that again come back to the requirement, the necessity of a robust campaign in support of this process. Experience with the governor, yeah, that is what we have bad experience with the governor. That's what we want the governor to be the executive, nominal executive head, and to act on the advice of the chief minister. All that was possible earlier, Doctor, was possible because of his dominance over the provincial public service. Through this provision which says that he is the appointing authority, disciplinary authority, transferring authority, all that. So if you remove that and give it to an independent public service commission, he has no stranglehold. He cannot influence in that. Now you have to go to the governor, even to have a workshop on an issue, you have to go to the governor. So chief secretary goes to the governor to get permission to hold a workshop. To send legal officers to a workshop in Colombo, statute drafting, which the Institute for Constitutional Studies organized, they have to go to the governor. Of course, some governors had no problem, but I know in some places they are reluctant, at least initially, so we have to talk to them and then get them to send the officials. Now, those are matters ideally not for the governor, those are matters for the board of ministers. But because of that provision, they are able to dominate the whole thing. UDA, of course, UDA, to my understanding, UDA powers are devolved on the municipal council, handled by the municipal councils and Pradesh Sabha. Some of the powers of the UDA. I must go into it. I'll go into it. Caste, what can we do? We can only say there should be no discrimination. This had been there for how many years? From 72, the Constitution says there should be no discrimination on the basis of caste.
I think his question is it possible to include a clause to specific?
It's already included.
No, that is already there, the Social Disability Amendment Act.
Yeah, that is there.
71, when Mr. M.C. Subramanian was MV, and 1971 was done. But
after that famous Valipur.
It's not still implementing.
But it's not implemented, that's true. On the ground it's a different situation.
It's like in 1978.
Yeah.
Hamlet is agreed, but still not implemented properly. The same thing in 1971, it's amended, but it's not implemented.
But can't we receive it as a constitution because the judiciary implemented?
That is we are asking because at Jaffna, when the comrade R. Vijayanathan came with the team, I'm the one is put on behalf of minority campus master. And I put a proposal there because still more.
What to say? What?
About representation.
Alaga? What did you say? What did you say? What was your specific proposal?
Minority Tamils Mahasabha.
Yeah.
We put a proposal about this because they are Tamils leaders asking for a devolution from the south to devolve themselves, not looking after their people who are living there more than 50% in northern province. they are not ready to.
No, what was your specific proposal?
Then even I'm the one who put it.
What is
Don't
that?
give the police power to
What
the
is
camera.
the, what is the specific proposal?
Yeah, that is the first point we put it. Don't give the police powers to the these people.
You are asking different.
No, that's
You are saying don't give police powers to the provinces.
He's
yeah, because otherwise we can't work and we can't move around in Jaffna. They will put me in. Wait, let me finish. Yeah. We put that one because after both finished 2009, you don't know. Last 8 years I'm in Jaffna. How much this caste issue gone up?
It's there, it's there.
Lots of people.
Are you all right, also?
Accept here. Lots of people. People in every single institution. We are working against the institution. We all laughed here when Jayampathy said, "Oh, I'm going to sell my property to the Muslims." But you don't know, it's still in Jaffna, how many people not ready to sell. So I'm sorry for my language. I don't want to sell it to Palayan. No. There's a lots of people paying more money to buy that property because they want to prove also we are equal here. We are working with
Yeah, but
hard.
Alagan, the problem is that can't be handled, that can't be compensated for or handled by denying police for law and order powers.
If that comes in the constitution, like a caste disgrace is a punishable act.
Punishable and you have to put it in there. That's the ask.
It's already there in the law, right? You say, but then you can't. Then you have to include punishments for all discriminations.
Yeah. Last 70 days we are having a demonstration in Jaffna.
On that issue, I know. On the cemetery issue, cemetery. So it's also, so you have to also, Alagan, you have to also put pressure on the political parties to take up this. They are not doing it. Yeah, but what can you do? When your own leaders are not taking it up, when your own leaders are not taking it up, and then limited.
So basically, you've got to, if there is no law, you see, you've got to bring a law into that.
That's what right.
First of all, let us go through the constitutional process.
I think there is one point. We can practical. No, if the caste discrimination is a major issue affecting the community, so that should be addressed in the constitution in a such a way that should be punished.
And according to the Desavala, I know them.
No, on that Desavala thing, I must say, I have in my in the report on the Fundamental Rights Committee, I have said you must subject all personal laws to the Fundamental Rights Charter.
Yeah.
Only
Can
now.
you repeat that, please?
Huh?
Can you repeat that?
I have said that all existing law, including personal laws, must be read subject to the new Fundamental Rights Charter. So that if there are discriminatory provisions, they would be struck down by courts. Now, Candian law has such discriminatory provisions. Nobody today in the Candian area say that they should continue. Today there is I spoke to the TNA, specifically to Sumandiran on this Kesavala. He said, let it be subject to the Fundamental Rights Chapter. Let the courts decide. Now, for example, preemption. I'm sure we can withstand challenge. Because there is a rational basis for that. Why? In Jaffna there is scarcity of land, and that's why this doesn't completely exclude outsiders as is believed in the South. They look at if there is only a preemption, right? But then there are marriage customs, marriage dowry and all that. They will have to be tested
and continued.
Huh?
It has to be continued. Sorry.
They must be
personal aspect of law. Certain element has to be continued.
But subject to the new Fundamental Rights Chapter. If there equality means equality.
30th atom and dowry, another inheritance,
so
it is not violating fundamental.
I don't know. Let them be tested by the courts.
Suri, you want to say?
If you are wait, please. Param, you went to the extent of saying that international treaties must be implemented. So like that, Tesavalame also must be subject to the new Fundamental Rights Chapter. Candian law must be subject to there are religious laws. In the case of the Muslims, also our Muslim comrades are born.
Mukwala. Is it?
No, Muslim law. Sharia. Now, there is a strong Muslim movement, especially among women, who said discriminatory laws have nothing to do with Islam. They are all, some introduced through the Indian culture, right? The cultural history. There's a huge debate. So I don't think my own view is that all laws. So so courts will have to decide whether it's so there is also the freedom of religion. Freedom of religion. So when you are attached to a particular religion, you have to decide whether a particular provision of a law is a religious law or whether or otherwise. That's a difficult issue, but let the courts handle it. So my own view, and I'm unfortunately in the minority, I'll tell you, I can give existing written law. I have said only 3 people in the committee, Honorable Mahinda Samarasinghe, Jayampathy Wickramaratne and Honorable Tusita Vijayamana. We only said all laws must be subject to the fundamental rights constitution. Salman says no, except personal laws must be exempted. Then Mr. Vasudeva Nanakara says Article 16 of the 78 Constitution should be retained. That exempts personal laws from the fundamental rights chapter should be retained. So this is even a person who is supposed to study from the left says it must be retained and says the commission shall be appointed by the President to review personal laws and make proposals as to how they could be harmonized with fundamental rights provisions. So he takes a halfway position. I take the position that all laws should be.
Dr. Jayampathy, are you okay for time?
No, I have to go.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Just one question from him.
Yeah.
Just one question from him is finished.
Because power is nothing without the finance. So we have to talk about how.
No, not here. They have been dealt with in the finance subcommittee.
Doctor,
I was not part of.
just one final question and we are closing. Yeah.
Just one point made one point. This after Brexit, the racial harassment has gone up like mad. On a daily basis, I'm in the police station, dealing with this type of case. The reason I say that is because the law has got in the UK law, racial harassment has got sentencing powers of imprisonment. But in the past, it was never being implemented. But people got away with it. But now they have amended the law to say any racial harassment issues with definite minimum sentences.
And for we have already had the ICCPR law.
May I ask how are you going to translate into these two?
Sorry?
provisions?
Sorry?
What is the basis of any prosecution in regard to racial? How can you bring it into Sri Lankan law?
It's already there in the penal code and the ICCPR law. There's an ICCPR act which is not being implemented. What last question? You can finish, right?
This one and that. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Quickly. Okay.
Mike, quickly, I think a couple of people.
Just stick to the question, yeah, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Stick to the
there was
question.
a question about taking the campaign to the people. Some reflections on that, because the idea of oneness is a good principle, but without taking the campaign to the people, it will be difficult to gain support for that. There was also one earlier as to how the diaspora can contribute to the process. So those are two things.
I think genuine, constructive criticism of what we need from the diaspora. If you find good things in this, please say so. Right? It will help us.
I think a 3-language policy also should be put into constitution.
I don't know whether we want to bring English as the official language. The consensus is
all
that
three languages should be read by
no, definitely Sinhala and Tamil, but English being brought as a link language is different, but an official language is another.
So that's good.
I don't know, for you living here it won't be a problem, but in our villages people don't understand English. And if they go to the cust area, somebody talks to him in English and issues a letter in English, He has to go to another person to understand, to get it translated. So,
sorry, one person is waiting for a long time. Quickly, if you shortly, quickly. He's the one for the long time he's waiting.
No, that was not asked. Can I have one small question? What you said we are talking about Tamil and Sinhalese based on the language. Now, where's the Muslim understanding? Language or the religion?
No, language-wise, other three communities all speak English, Tamil, no? So Muslims and Afghani Tamil, you also conveniently forget, not conveniently, you forget the Hill Country Tamils, who are a distinct community. In my speeches, I never say Tamils to include Hill Country. I always say Tamils, Muslims, and Hill Country Tamils. You have forgotten because it's right?
Sorry,
they are a distinct community.
Siva, just a minute. Can you, Siva?
They are a distinct community. They have their own cultural identity. Even in the census, they are different.
Okay.
The very last question.
Yeah, on the issue of caste discrimination, one important thing that needs to be addressed is the representation. Now, on the women's issue, now you have introduced a system of minimum women candidates. Now, the depressed caste are not represented in Pradesh Sabhas, in municipal council, and in northern provincial council. So, if they are not represented,
but how can you put it in the constitution that you can't have caste quotas?
I don't know the mechanism, but
no, that one way of doing it is, that Muslim gentleman.
They are voiceless.
No, one of this lists, the compensatory list. So parties can take the lead. I hope the DNA does, right? Or some party. Or if they don't do it, some other party says, okay, we put a depressed class person as number one in the compensatory list so that he gets it. Everybody will go and vote for that party.
Several parties should make a law to include
No, parties should have their own listing. You can't make laws.
Okay.
How can you put? How can you?
Okay.
Even in the Sinhalese areas, there are electorates. There have been electorates which are majority of a particular caste. So that ensures representation.
Okay.
In 47 from 47 to 60, Balangoda was made a dual member constituency to ensure the representation of the so-called depressed communities. And we in the LSSP always got that seat.
Thank you very much, everyone. Let me invite Mr. Ramraj to say vote of thanks and close the matter. Thank you.
Can I ask?
No, that's closed. Send Mr. Terwin, close. Time is up.
No, but I want to ask you. You said it was 15:30.
No, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. 1 hour. I told at the beginning it's 3 o'clock because he has to leave at 3 o'clock. You didn't hear. Can you please? Yeah.
வருகிற அனைவருக்கும் எங்களுடைய நன்றிகளை என்ஆர்டி சார்பாக தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றோம். அதேவேளை மிகுந்த சிரமத்தின் மத்தியிலே கொழும்பிலிருந்து 3வது முறையாக எங்களுடைய அழைப்பை ஏற்று வருகை தந்து மிகவும் ஆணித்தரமாக விளக்கங்களை அக்குவர் ஆணிவராக விளங்கப்படுத்திய தமிழ், சிங்களம், முஸ்லீம் மக்களுக்கு நாளை முஸ்லீம் மக்களுடைய உள்ள தமிழ் தேசிய கூட்டமைப்போடும் தனிப்பட்ட முறையிலேயே அவருடைய அழைப்போடு ஏற்று அங்கீகரித்து பேசியிருக்கின்றார். இப்படி பல்வேறு நெருக்கடிக்கு மத்தியிலும் குறிப்பாக புலம்பெயர்ந்த தமிழ் மக்கள் மத்தியிலே மிக நிதானமாக ஆணித்தனமாக கடத்தக்கூடிய டாக்டர் விஜயன் அவர்களுக்கும் விக்ரமசிங்க அவர்களுக்கும் நன்றியை குறிப்பிடுவதோடு இந்த இடத்தை எங்களுக்கு தந்த மசாலா உரிமையாளர் குணாலன் அவர்களுக்கும் நன்றியை கூறி விடைபெறுகிறோம். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
Thank you very much.